I don't know what happened. I think maybe I was gripping the phone too hard and made a mistake and mashed a button that cut me off alive. Um, so I guess that kind of tells how um, how peeved I am. I guess you could use the term peeved. I guess that would be appropriate to use. So the level of frustration, excuse me, the frustration that I have in terms with this Hebrew that has, taken the Hebrew community by storm, right? For people that believe that they have the right answer and say, okay, well, this is a different Hebrew from what everybody's been taught. So now I have this unique and pure language that only I know how to speak and only these particular teachers know how to interpret. And, this gives me this authority in the text over anybody that doesn't have it. So this is, kind of the psychological aspect of the doctrine and why shalom, 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 my brother. This is the psychological aspect of the doctrine and why people hold on to these style of doctrines in the way that they do, because it gives them this specific authority. And, sometimes there's only a couple places where you can get the authority from. So, people want to reject anything that white people have put their hands on and misidentify it as something that is now corrupted when you can't do that. You can't just say, oh, well, all Hebrew that you know of today is Yiddish, right? All of the Hebrew that you've looked at, all of the Hebrew that is, been studied for thousands of years now is Yiddish. And this is what a lot of people like to do, is to say that the Hebrew that is attested for historically and scholastically is Yiddish. And you can't really say that, with any understanding or if any technical knowledge at all, because we know that what Yiddish is. Yiddish is a whole other language. Yiddish is German. To be honest with you, you guys, Yiddish is nothing but German, just spelled with Hebrew letters. Like, for instance, in Yiddish, the term for house is Hus, right? Because in German, the term for house is Hus. In Hebrew, the term for house is Bayit. And so we know that Yiddish and Hebrew are two different languages. We know that the Ashkenazim are German-based. They're, Germanic tribes. We know they're Gog and Magog, and those are these Germanic tribes. That's why they speak Germanic languages, right? And so this is where the Yiddish comes from, because these people who had picked up on Hebrew culture 1,000 years ago still were speaking German. And so what they did was, since they were trying to learn Hebrew, they just took Hebrew characters and spelled the words that they already had in Hebrew characters. That's what Yiddish is. Yiddish is literally German in Hebrew characters. That would be like if I had, let's just say my name was Bobby, right? My name is Bobby, and so I want to make a language, to say my name in, but I want to use Hebrew characters to do it. I would just say, I'd spell Bobby, Bayet, Wa, Bayet, Yod. And so that is literally Bobby or Bobby, but it wouldn't be Hebrew then, because I'm using Hebrew characters. It would still be an English name, Bobby, but you're just using Hebrew characters to spell it. That's all that Yiddish is. It doesn't have any, ties to the Bible whatsoever. There's no Yiddish in the Bible at all. It doesn't have any ties to any ancient language at all. It doesn't have any ties to Hebrew at all, except for the fact that they use Hebrew characters. That's it. And so when people say that the biblical Hebrew that, we've been studying is Yiddish, it just shows a lack of study. It shows a lack of, critical thinking to be able to go and literally look into the Hebrew yourself and find these answers out, because they exist. These answers exist. You don't have to go far to find them. If you look up what Yiddish is, it tells you directly what Yiddish is. You go to Wikipedia, it tells you what Yiddish is. It's not ancient Hebrew. It's not even modern Hebrew. They're not the same language. People speak Yiddish and people speak Hebrew, right? Jews, the fake Jews, Ashkenazim, in Israel right now speak Yiddish and Hebrew. They don't, they speak Yiddish and Hebrew, mostly Yiddish. Some people speak Hebrew, but most people speak Yiddish. The thing is, they only started speaking Hebrew about 100 years ago. And I don't know if this was Theodore Herzl or somebody else, but there was this guy that came along, and when the Ashkenazim were moving into Israel in force and displacing people off of their lands, and back 100 years ago when all of these things first started, um, they got into Israel calling themselves Israelites and could speak no Hebrew. They were all speaking Yiddish, which is German. So what he did was he founded a newspaper. You guys can look this up. He founded a newspaper and he put out a Hebrew word a week or a Hebrew phrase a week until he single-handedly taught his people, these German people that were speaking a German Hebrew mix called Yiddish, literally in a decade, taught his people how to speak Hebrew just by putting a couple words in a weekly newspaper article every week. And people would look at it, and people read it, and people understood, and they learned Hebrew. That's why you have Hebrew speakers now in Israel, because they sat down and taught themselves how to do it. It's not like that they intrinsically had it. They had Yiddish. And so that goes a long way to say that, people that are calling actual ancient Hebrew Yiddish, aren't doing enough research. They're not, studying to show themselves approved, right? And so just to do a recap, and I'm sorry, my brother, I had another video that I somehow was clicked out of. But to recap, we have this language that emerged in the 70s, and in the 70s, this language emerged. So only about 50 years old, called Lashawan Dash. And it's taken hold of the Hebrew community for people that believe that somehow this pronunciation style is Paleo Hebrew, right? And so Paleo just meaning the oldest form of Hebrew. You guys, Paleo Hebrew is a script. It's not its own language. It's a script. So when you see the box style letters with the hey, kind of looks like a 7 with a line in front of it, or you see the aleph, it kind of looks like a squiggly line, and then another one there and another one there. You see the bayet that looks like this with the line under it. Those are box style. That's Babylonian script, you guys. This is the script that Babylon would use to write Aramaic. So Hebrews use that script to write Hebrew, right? And so literally it's the same thing with the Yiddish, except in an ancient context with Babylonian script and Hebrew words. But actual Hebrew is the characters that you would see that were on the Moabite stone, right? So you have the aleph that looks like the ox head. You have the bayet that looks like the little tent with the squiggly line underneath it. You have the gimel, which is just camel head, because camel and gimel are the same thing. You have a dalet that's literally a triangle. It represents a door, and it's a tent door. So tents are triangles. If you fold up the tent door, it looks like a triangle. You guys see what I mean? That style of script is called Paleo Hebrew, and that's what Hebrew was originally written in. We know that because the first century, you wouldn't call them exiles, you would call them renegades. The first century renegades, known as the the Jesseyites, is what they get their name from Jesse, Essenes, that went into the wilderness of Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls. What they found when they were unearthing scrolls is that they did use the box style, Babylonian style Hebrew. Whenever they would come across the name of the Father, you would see Yod He Wah He in Paleo Hebrew script. You'd have the Yod as the Z with the through it in the middle, the Hey that looks like a pick, or like with one of the pick with the handles, like a pick that you do like this, with no on it, looks like that. The Wah is literally like a tent stake that literally looks like a tent stake, and then the Hey again with the lines going across the big pick like this. you would see that script and then a continuation of the box style afterwards, which means they reveal the name of the Father so much is that they saw it as a corruption to write it even in the box style Hebrew. Because even them, I mean, this is what we know of as Hebrew today, but to them, that box style was foreign, you guys. That box style was foreign that we have the Bible in now. That style was foreign to them. So we know for a fact that the Hebrews used what's called Paleo-Hebrew. Is there a language that you can say is spoken as Paleo-Hebrew? No, there is no such language called Paleo-Hebrew. It's a script. And so when people say Lashawan Kadash is Paleo-Hebrew, again, it's a lack of research, a lack of study that, leads them down this path of being told this way is, not being seen, not knowing exactly what it is by what they see in the text. So again, we recognize, just to recap from the other video, we recognize in several different places that Lashawan Kadash, purports to be a Hebrew language without any consonants, or with one consonant being the ayin. We know that can't be the case because Josephus says that the name of the Father, and this is in Antiquities, that the name of the Father contains 4 vowels. That means, Lashawan Kadash says there's 1 vowel, but Josephus, first century Levite, who would have worked in the temple, whose family would have worked in the temple, says no, that there were 4 vowels that were consistent of the name of the Father. That means, those are the 3 characters, Yod, He, Wah, He. So there's 3, Yod, He, Wah. Those were all vowels. And maybe not even vowels in the traditional sense that we understand vowels to be, because for each of those words, we have 2 corresponding English letters. For Yod, we have Y and I. For Hey, we have H and A. And for Wah, we have O and W. You guys, you have O and W. So in each of these different letters, where you place them in a word will depend on how they sound. So if a Hey is in front of a word like Ha-Adam, the man, Ha-Adam, the man, don't let me get into Edom again, because this is where we go down. The people that believe in Lashawan Kadash are the same people that tell you that Edom is the white man. So this is, dual doctrines, dual false doctrines that exist in the same styles of camp. Anytime you hear Shalom, you're also going to hear Esau is white. Anytime you hear Esau is white, you're more than likely also going to hear Shalom. So these are all hallmarks of doctrines, you guys. The style of Hebrew dealing with is going to come out in the way that they talk and interpret things. So this is just a side note to Rolodex, that as soon as you hear Shalom, you're going to already recognize the style of doctrines that this particular person has. So besides that, we know Josephus says particularly that there are 4 vowels that the name of the Father is consisting of. That means Lashawan Kadash is out the window, guys. So with 4 vowels, automatically Lashawan Kadash cannot be founded, because Lashawan Kadash is saying that there's 1 vowel, the ayin, right? And Josephus says there's 4 in the name of the Father, and the name of the Father has 3 different characters. So Yod, He, Wah are all 3 vowels, you guys. So Yod, the two letters that the Yod, O, or Yod, if you put it in front, like, I'll just say, let's see, what's a good word for Yod? The word Yod, spelled Yod, Wah, Dalet. So that says Yod. It's not Ayod, it's Yod, right? But if you want to say my hand or my arm, because Yod means arm or hand. If you want to say my arm or my hand, you would put Yodi, right? So you wouldn't say Yodia or Yoy. It would be Yodi, right? So with a Yod at the end, it takes on what we consider that vowel sound, right? So Yodi, my hand, consists of the Yod acting like a vowel and a consonant in the same word. You see what I'm saying? So we have these English notions that don't really translate well into Hebrew. And when we try to force Hebrew into our modern understanding of what is a consonant, what is a vowel, then it just does, we just end up making our own language up and looking like we haven't studied long enough. So we know without a doubt, Josephus accounts there being four vowels in the name of the Father, three different characters. Those characters, Yod, He, Wah, being themselves vowel. No matter what we think about what a vowel is, Josephus identifies them as vowels, you guys. Not only that, we have lots of cognate languages that attempted cognate languages that attempted to pronounce the names and places in the Bible. Do you see what I'm saying? For instance, Jerusalem. It's not Yarawa, Shawal. You see what I'm saying? You get, try to do grammar, try to do Hebrew grammar with Lashawan Kadash. I mean, it'll be out of this world. Try to use the Hitpael form with Lashawan Kadash, and you're gonna go crazy. Try to do the Nephil form. Try to do the Puel form with Lashawan Kadash, and you just have a mess on your hands. You have an absolute mess, you guys. If you try to do any deep Hebrew study with Lashawan Kadash, it falls apart. But besides that, you have the cognate languages like Greek, like Egyptian, like Akkadian, tried to pronounce the words that they were hearing. For instance, like the King Jehoram, they use in the Greek in Matthew, I believe it's in Matthew, they use Yoram. Yoram. That's what they use. They use Yahwaram, which they could, right? They could. They have, the letters not for the Yod, but they have the letters for everything else. You guys, the Egyptian, going back 3,000 years, has an open oh sound in the name of the Father. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not Yahweh, but Yah-oh. Very clearly. The Akkadian has the name of the Father right there. I think it's in one stele. It's not the Mesha stele, but it's a different, I can't remember the archaeological piece, but it's from the Assyrians, and it comes from, I think it's Shalmaneser, maybe Shalmaneser, but he is talking about how he was putting the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah into subjection, and he begins to talk about the ones in particular, like Ahaziah, and I think it's Ahaziah. It may be Yao-Ahaz. It's a Yao-Ahaz. And they literally put, instead of Yahweh Ahaz, they put Yao-Ahaz. This is what the Akkadian has translated. Not anything different, not a bunch of W's. And we know what these ancient languages sound like because of the Rosetta Stone, because we're able to look at the Greeks, how they attempted to pronounce these names. And when they try to pronounce them, they put specific letters in specific places. They have vowel sounds. And they put vowel sounds in the places where they belonged in the Hebrew because they're trying to say the name right. They have no reason 2,000 years ago to try to sneak and mispronounce the name. So here we are in, the 21st century to say, wait a second, look at this. They must be trying to hide something. No, these Greeks are studying like we are. Do you understand what I'm saying? It all came later when they tried to corrupt the names, and like the name of the Son and the name of the Father. That came later. But the original Greco-Roman scholars that were looking at these things and looking at the ways to pronounce these words used the iota, they used the alpha, and they used omega, the omega, to identify the name of the Father as Yah-oh. Do you see what I'm saying? With vowels there. So you can't have it any other way. You can't lean on your own understanding. And this is what people are doing. They're leaning on an understanding that they've developed themselves. And because they've developed it themselves, it's harder for them to give up. It's their claim to fame. It's their power that they have over people. Can't go to a book and get that Lashawan Kadash. You got to watch my video. You can't go, you can't find it anywhere in history. You got to get it from me. Do what I'm saying? It's the same thing about the people in Galatia that were bewitching Galatians. They said that they compel you to be circumcised, that they may boast in your flesh. Well, since you got to go back to them for your doctrine, they're able to boast on you. So this is my disciple who I circumcised right here. This is my disciple. I'm the one that taught him the holy language right here. You understand what I'm saying? This is the way that we understand that people who are into this language have utilized this mental device in order to get people to say, oh, well, we reject that, that scholastic Hebrew for this that we've made up ourselves. Do you see what I'm saying? And we've got to be very careful that we don't fall into that trap. And I see that there's somebody else on here now. Along with my brother, I'm learning the trade. Shalom, shalom, my brother. We've been trying to get the Hebrew news going. It's been slow going, but we're still trying to work at it and work out the kinks. So we'll still be at it. But if anybody has any questions on anything, I would love to get a discussion on this. I would love for, the reason why I'm bringing this out now is because I was challenged earlier today by a brother that is on another channel. I was just greeting him on his channel, and he replied to me with the Shalom. And I thought to myself, And every time I hear it, I think to myself, now should I say something to this brother who is speaking this way so that I could help the brother out if he comes across somebody who does actually know the Hebrew, so that he won't be embarrassed by not knowing the Hebrew? Should I start him on a journey of actually trying to learn the Hebrew and to understand things? And so I deliberate on that every time I hear it said, Shalom. So this time I said, you know what? I don't want to be contentious. I don't want to be argumentative. I don't want to cause friction or chaos. I do want to help people out. And I do want people to care about the right thing and not just the new thing or the unique thing. Do you see what I'm saying? So I did say my brother is pronounced Shalom. I did say that. And he did reply with prove it. And I said, okay, well, I would look forward to doing that. I think I said I'm waiting for the opportunity. And so here the opportunity is now to be able to do this and to be able to really, really clearly, historically, without even the use of any, outside, notes or references. These are all just really, peace, my brother, doing my brother. These are all really references that anybody can get up and check at any time. You can go to Josephus Antiquities and look up vowels and see that Josephus says the name of the Father has 4 vowels in it. You can go to the book of Matthew and look at the Greek book of Matthew in the genealogies in, chapter 1, and then see how the names are pronounced, or how these Greek interpreters heard names themselves, because you've got the Greeks that were right there contemporaneous with the Hebrews in the first century. You can go to the Septuagint, which is the Torah is written by Hebrews themselves who understood both Hebrew and Greek, and you can names in the Greek that are transliterated with vowels, with O-class vowels, with I-class vowels, with A-class vowels, with E-class vowels. And so you can understand that those vowels existed in the Hebrew, and you don't have to, compose a language of all continents or consonants to get to the ancient understanding. All these are things that you can just go yourself right away and check out on your own. If you see the name Yao Ahaz, then it's spelled in Greek Yao Ahaz, because they're using iota instead of the yod. If you look at the name, Jehozadak, if you look at the Greek in the book of Zechariah, it'll be Yahuzadak, because of course it's not Yahweh Zadak, right? If you look at the name for Jeremiah in the Hebrew, is Yirmiyahu. And so how would that open O sound at the end of it's spelled Yod, Resh, Mem, Yod, He, Wa. What would that open O sound at the end sound like in Lashawan Kadash? It would be, what would it be? Ya, Ra, Ma, Ya, How, right? That's it's not the way we talk, you guys. Not the way we talked at all. So it would be Yirmiyahu, you guys, Yirmiyahu, with an understanding of how that Hebrew vowels work. It's very simple. We have guidelines in the text. We have guidelines with the ancient covenant languages. And I challenge my brothers and sisters out there to leave the Lashawan Kadash in the closet where it came from. Leave the Lashawan Kadash in the camps that invented it. Leave the Lashawan Kadash in the past because it was produced in the present. Let's not bring it to the future. And I guess it's just one of my pet peeves because I see it and I'm like, come on, man. It's really, really, really easy to get past that doctrine. Just like with the Esau doctrine, it's really, really easy to get past it. It's very obvious that it's not what people are saying it is. And if we're going to be taken seriously as a people, if we're going to really, get understanding, and if we want to please the Father by having, informed and accurate information, then we don't get caught up in these created doctrines that just make us look uneducated, you guys. If we don't know anything about history, we say Shalom. If we don't know anything about history, we say Esau was the white man. And so there's no way around that. If anybody else does know these things, if we ever have to defend the faith, then if we're defending it with inaccuracies, then we're on a sinking ship, you guys. We're just on a sinking ship. And I've got 4 people on here right now. If there's any questions, I want to hold out. It looks like I got 3% of battery life left. If there's any questions, you guys, I do want to hold out until I can, really satisfy the need for people to be, with information, the need for people to speak in this way. And you guys, no one in history has ever used Lashawan Kadash. It's Lashon Kadosh. Lashon meaning tongue, Kadosh meaning set apart. People would say holy. So there is such thing as a Lashon Kadosh. There is no such thing as a Lashawan Kadash, you guys. So if there's anything else, I just wanted to hang out on here. Shalom, shalom, my brother. I'm learning how to trade. Shalom, shalom. We survived 100. We surveyed 100. I always say we survived 100 people. We surveyed 100 people. I hope you brothers are doing good. I appreciate you guys always coming on here. I can always know that you guys will be visiting the page or visiting alive. I can always expect you guys to be around, and thank y'all for that for sure. We praise y'all for correct information. We exist in the truth. We walk in the truth, and we try to make sure that we have everything. So I'm daily doing research, daily digging into the scriptures, daily speaking on these things so that people can understand, people can know, people can walk in truth, people can walk rightly, people can rightly divide the word of truth. We have to do the appropriate research. We can't get caught in these traps that they set for us. And I do think that these doctrines are traps to make us look crazy whenever we try to explain, the hope that we have to our friends and family members. Because once we say shalom and somebody says, what's shalom? And then they go to their, pastor or their local theologian and they say, what? Shalom? Oh, no. Take a look at what Josephus. Josephus translates this as shalom. Everybody in history has always translated it as shalom. Why in the world would people make up shalom? There's no shalom in history anywhere. So automatically, anything that person says will be looked at as false because they've greeted you with a falsehood. You understand? This is how we greet each other. Shalom. If you greet somebody with a falsehood, then automatically nothing that you say after that falsehood will be taken seriously, you guys. And so this is where we're at right now. I hope this has been a blessing. I hope it's been, an awakening to some people. And I hate to be like the stickler to say, well, you gotta say it like this. Make sure you're. I hate to be that way, but I don't even have an excuse for hating to be that way. It's just the way that I am. I want to hear it said right. I want to hear it done right. I want people to be on one accord. I don't want there to be obvious, misconceptions in the community. And with the appropriate amount of study, with the right amount of reasoning, we should be able to come to a very, very, very simple conclusion, you guys. Okay, so I think that's all my battery is going to let me do. I've got 2% left. If there are any questions about Hebrew, if there's any questions about Lashawan Kadash, if there's any questions about, proving Lashawan Kadash to be a modern false interpretation of Hebrew, now is the time to ask it. It says, here for the truth. I'm finding there's a difference in teaching here versus the other channels. I find it hard to listen to many others because they most often don't match what I read. Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case when it comes to a lot of Hebrew doctrines, you guys. I almost have gotten to the point to where I wanted to just say, man, forget it. If I send somebody down this path and they run into one of the other guys, then it's going to be a problem because they're going to learn a bunch of false doctrine. And then a lot of hate doctrines as well, concerning women, concerning Gentiles, concerning the Father and the Son, and then concerning the language. So it's just disheartening for me. But I know where the misconceptions come from, and I know why they stick. I know why they stick. It really is. I think it's a pride thing, like we were talking before, that especially with this Hebrew, that people are just wanting to have the inside information, the unique interpretation. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that always, not always, but it is in this context not prescribed. We do have to dig into what is left for us. Now, is that saying that what the Ashkenazim have left us, and I'm almost out of battery here, you guys. It says, when you get a chance, can you break down Proverbs 29:5? It does not have to be now because your battery is low and it's off topic. For sure, man. I'll come on here and take a look at that 29:5. Proverbs 29:4 off the top of my head. But I will come back and take a look at it, you guys. But yeah, so people just have a misconception and they want to, kind of stick to that misconception no matter what. So I'm glad that there are people like you guys that actually can rightly divide the word of truth, that actually recognize the differences between what's in the scripture and what's being told to people, can recognize that you don't treat women like this, that you don't treat Gentiles that are, that are searching for the truth in this way. You don't, treat the Hebrew any way you want to. You don't treat the Father's name any type of way you want to. That there is, that's what I was really going to say really, really quick. That's not to say that the Ashkenazim have presented to us accurate Hebrew in the way that it automatically is. You still do have to do your appropriate research. There are no V's in ancient Hebrew, no V's at all. So the dual consonant where the bayit could be a vayet doesn't exist. Where the wa can be a vav doesn't exist, you guys. Where the sin can be a shin doesn't exist. So again, we have to do the appropriate research, but the ability to live in the information age. So the ability to do the appropriate research exists. And I am at 1% right now, you guys. It says, please keep going regardless of your reach and allow the Father and then to make up the difference. His sheep hear his voice. Hallelujah, for sure. We are listening and we are learning too. And before it cuts me off, just so I can make sure that get all of this on here and it doesn't try not to upload it, I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. And so what I'll do is I'll try to do the news and the lives. So I'll have, both things to do and different ways to do it. But shalom, shalom, you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting this channel. We'll look into Proverbs 29:5 and then get a live going on that one too. Shalom, shalom, you guys.